Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurureva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trilokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Bandhu Cha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravindam Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Jai Guru Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So where are we in our text?
We're in chapter 6, number 43.
And can you give a page number for Priya so she can find you?
I have it.
Okay, great.
43?
I think that's right. Chapter 6, verse 43, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Swayam atmeti paryayau tena loke tayo saha prayogo nasyata swatman atma tattvam atmatvam chanya varakam. People ordinarily use self and Atman as synonymous terms, and so both terms are never used together. In fact, each of these terms excludes the idea of, quote, another.
So here, I have a student who went to someone who said to them that the reason you're having a physical problem is your Atman is trying to leave the body. I found that a fascinating construct. Like, I have an Atman that's other than myself. Atman means self. So all of these are synonymous terms. Brahman, Purusha, Atman, or what Vidyaranya has been saying, Kutastha, Chidakasha, Satchidananda. These are all various ways of indicating Aham. Who am I? So if you're thinking, I'm Jim, that's myself, and I'm going to somehow reach the Atman up there, out there, or I'm going to change from Jim, the miserable Jiva, into Atman. I'm so much better now. The terms are synonymous. We cannot see them as other. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Ghata swayam na janati ityevam sattvatam ghatadishu achet acheta neshu drishtam chet drishyatam atma sattvatah. Doubt. We often use such expressions as, quote, the pot does not know, end quote. Here, the word self is applied to an inanimate object. Reply. Such language is used because Atman is the basis of the inanimate objects also.
Oh, okay. So we say the pot does not know, meaning it is jada, it is inert, it is insentient. So in English, we will talk about things and beings. The chair is a thing, the table is a thing, the lamp is the thing, Priya is a being, Puneet is a being, a dog is a being. We say that because the chair, the table, the lamp, they do not know, they do not shine with the light of awareness. But what Vidyaranya is driving at is consciousness is the substratum and the material cause of things and beings. Again, you hear me say this all the time. You are the God of your dream. If you go to the dream state, you'll see how it works. So when I have a dream, I had a weird dream this morning. I was in some sort of doing a concert, and I was given this sheet of music, and there were 3 verses, and I was somehow supposed to memorize them by seeing them once. And then I was supposed to go out and perform them. And I said, you gotta let me study them longer. Oh, no, we don't have time to do that. I got really frustrated at it. Very weird dream. I'm sure Freud would have a heyday with it. But the point I'm getting at is the person sitting at the piano to the dreamer was a being. The piano was a thing, an inanimate object. The sheet music was a thing. Of course, I was a being in the dream. But from looking at it from the standpoint of the waker, was the piano, the sheet music, the person playing the piano, or the dream gym body anything other than the fabric of my mind appearing as things and beings? Now, when we say the pot does not know, the material cause of the pot from the standpoint of the absolute is consciousness alone. So it has sat, but it doesn't shine with very much chit, and certainly no ananda. Those are not available, they're occluded from our experience in the pot because of the nature of the upadi, the condition. Being, on the other hand, shines with the light of intelligence. Even though the material cause of an inert pot and a great Mahatma. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Chetana, Chetana, Bhida, कूटस्थात्मा कृता नहि किन्तु बुद्धि कृता भास कृतैवेत्यवगम्यताम्. It is not the immutable Kutastha or Atman which makes the difference between animate and the inanimate. It is the Jiva, the reflection of Kutastha in the intellect, which makes the difference.
Yes. So I like to use the example of sunlight is one without a second. It strikes a prism which is like the subtle intellect, the jiva. And then that same light refracts into a spectrum. Consciousness striking the subtle intellect, then creates a world of knower, knowing, and known. Now, you have to be very careful. Vidyaranya is not advocating solipsism. Solipsism is the philosophical / psychological position. A lot of the new agey people get caught in this, where I think it's my ego that's creating my world. And you don't have any people left in your world. Why am I yelling at myself through my mother? And there's some truth. I certainly create my experience of my mother, but remember who's doing the dreaming. It is not your ego. You have a limited capacity to create and manifest. But if I get hit by a bus, Priya doesn't wink out of existence. Nor do galaxies, nor do other people. So I would simplify it this way. What is it that the jiva creates? Jiva bhavana, the feeling that I'm a person, that I think the world is separate from me. I need to struggle. That's enough. All right, next verse.
यथा चेतन आभास कूटस्थे भ्रांति कल्पितः अचेतनो घटादिश्च तथा तत्रैव कल्पितः. Just as the conscious jiva is created by illusion based on kutastha, even so, on it the inanimate objects are created by avidya.
Yes. So both this jiva bhavana is created by illusion, by maya, and the whole world is too. Vidyaranya, in many ways, is riffing on the 11th verse in the 2nd chapter of Gita, where Krishna plays with the terms sat and bhava. That which has no existence has no being. There is no non-being for what is really existent. What does he mean? We separate the world into things and beings. A thing is something that's inherently insentient. What Krishna is saying is only sentience itself, bhava, is sat. That which is a thing. Remember, the relationship to me, my body is a thing. I know my nose and my toes. They do not know one another. Why should I think your body is other than a thing? All the names and forms are nitya, illusory, superimposed on consciousness itself. So what? This seems kind of technical and arcane. What he's saying is, don't take it so seriously. Remember earlier in this chapter, he's saying all the names and forms that Ishvara creates, the dreams, are neutral in content. I superimpose good, bad, pleasurable, repulsive, desirable, terrible. That's all my good Yiddish word, mishagas, craziness. The world just is. So the point of the practice here is, don't get caught up in the projections of the mind, seen but not real. Not to believe our minds. Any thoughts on this?
Jim, you said the table has sat, but then you also said that which is not sentient has no being, I suppose.
Well, it borrows sat from consciousness. So how can I put this? Different things that are created by Ishvara, imagined by Ishvara, vary in their nature according to the gunas. So the most rudimentary kind of manifestation is it's just got sat. That's like a rock, like a table. Then there are things that have some movement to them. They have some qualities of rajas.
Something like a fire, maybe?
Yeah, or a river. And maybe some lower life forms, trees and things like that, plants. But then when we get into the animal kingdom, and there may be plants that actually have some actual mind, some sentience there. There's some sattva there. And then the scriptures say that human beings are the pinnacle of it all. We have the capacity for the greatest sattva, which is self-realization. Now, I don't know, maybe dolphins and whales and elephants are more spiritually evolved than you and me. I'm completely open to that.
So you're saying the bodies are essentially allowing us to experience our being, because a rock or a plant could not do that.
It's not just the body. It's the body, the mind, and the intellect.
Right. I mean, yeah, the
subtle
and the gross part.
Yeah.
Sure.
The upadis, yes. So you can have a Mahatma, you can have a realized soul, which is what the scriptures would say is the crown of creation. It might be a little bit anthrocentric. Right? Now, maybe there are beings from outer space and they think we're pretty dull. Like, put us down there in the Tamas area compared to that. Who's to say? But all of it, those are the gunas. Those have to do with the equipments, and all of the equipments, the body, mind, and intellect. The trees, the plants, the rocks, everything are all just imaginations in Brahman. Does that make it a little clear?
Mhm.
Good question. Again, in my opinion, Vidyaranya can make simple things more complicated than they need to be. I just love that 11th verse from the second chapter. Makes it really simple. What's real? Real with a capital R. Aham. Or what does Gaudapada say in the second chapter of Mandukya Karika? Basically says the phenomenal world is unreal, and the proof of its unreality is that it is seen. If it is seeable, knowable, it's mithya, or as he says in that chapter, vaitatya, false. What is true? What is real? What is kutastha? Makes, for me, that's to the point and simple. All right.
Another thing that's coming to mind is there's this notion of, like, I guess in temples and things, they are transferring certain or using mantras and stuff to create a deity out of a rock, in essence, like something that's inanimate. Is that the same idea of, like, imagine, like?
Well, first of all, you'd have to talk to a priest, because that's the ones who do all that. But so you've got a Shiva Lingam, you mean?
Yeah, something like that.
So you have a Shiva Lingam, and then a Mahatma or a priest can enliven it. And then it becomes, the icon, the murti, of the god itself. What is it? Is it the inherent property of the stone? Is it something that the pujari does to the stone? Is it our belief that it happens? Is it thousands and thousands of people chanting the mantras that bestow that energy on the stone? Is it just our belief? I think all of that is possible and true. All of it is true. One of the things, these two texts that we study, Yoga Vasishta and Tripura Rahasya, is the capacity of the mind to manifest, to create, is virtually limitless. Through all sorts of methodologies. But is it really that? Well, remember our story of Lavana. Remember him, the king? He's there in his throne, and this dude comes in bringing a horse, and he's got peacock feathers. You all remember that story? Mm-hmm. He goes, whoosh. And then from the standpoint of the people in the court, the king just stands there with his eyes wide open for an hour and a half, 2 muhurta. But the king experiences getting on the horse, going out to some place, and he grabs a tree, and the horse goes on, and he comes down, and he's thirsty, and a tribal woman comes by, and he says, give me something to drink. And she says, I can't, I'm a tribal person, not allowed. And she says, if you marry me, then I'll give you food and water. He says, okay. So he marries her, goes back to their village, lives there for 60 years, raises kids. You remember the story? Mm-hmm. And then after 60 years, there's a famine and everything is so terrible. So he builds a funeral pyre, jumps on the funeral pyre. Next thing you know, he's back as Lavana in the palace. Then what does he do next? I want to see what's really going on. So he gets on a horse and he rides to where that village was in his hallucination. And he finds an old woman who tells him a story about a king who came 60 years ago. and married a tribal woman, etc. So the purpose of the story is to break down even our linear notions of time and space. So theoretically, Pujari could take the stone and manifest Lord Shiva or a tree. It's all just some company. So we want to break down these notions of where we're asking the question, well, is it real out there in the world of manifestation or not? To a Vedantan, that's an absurd question. Nothing out there is real. It only seems real because of thinking. And again in Mandukya, Gaudapada goes through all the various reasons we think things are real in the world of phenomena. One of the most powerful is agreement. If everybody in the village thinks the rock is Shiva, Shiva. You see what I mean? We've got all this stuff going on in the world. Is there genocide going on or is it self-defense? Who are the villains? Who are the good guys? Binary, black and white thinking. Again, to reduce it to its most simple practice. In Yoga Vasishtha, we get 3 questions. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? Who am I? I am Atma Brahma. The self is Brahman. What is this world? Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. This world is verily Brahman. How did it come about? Sankalpena, by means of wishing, willing, intending, thinking. Okay, let's go back to the Brahma.
Tate dante api sattva ima tvama hamadishu sarvatranugate tena tayoryapyatmateti chet. Doubt. Like the word self, the words this and that can be applied to all persons, I and he, etc. It is therefore reasonable to conclude that the objects denoted by this and that are also the Atman.
So the doubt is the objects out there are the Atman. Well, they are and they're not. We have these 2 scriptural statements. Brahma Satyam Jagan Nitya. Brahman alone is real. The phenomenal world is Nitya literally means, I think, lie, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Lie, false, illusory. And then we have Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. All this is verily Brahman. Well, make up your mind. Is it all illusion or is it all Brahman? Yes. We have to be able to reconcile those 2 viewpoints. I'm not sure where Vidyaranya is going to go with this discussion, but is everything out there the this and the that? Are they all the Atman? Or can we say this is Atman and that is not Atman? I'm not sure what he's going to do with this. So let's see where he takes us.
Te atmatve tadedante tatasya tayoho atmatvam naiva sambhavyam samyak tvadev yatha tatha. Reply. This and that do not refer to I, you, and he as distinct entities, but also to Atman, which is the common element in them all. They are like correctness, incorrectness, etc., not synonymous with Atman because they are of a wider denotation.
Okay, what I think he's driving at here again, the names and forms are shapes superimposed on the substratum. The classic Shankara image is the pot, the bowl, the cup are just name and form. What's there is clay. The necklace, the nose ring, the bracelet are just name and form. What's there is gold. Sofa, chair, lamp, punit body, priya body are just name and form. What's there is consciousness. And the names and forms are seen real. Just like pratibimba. The bimba is the mirror, and the pratibimba is the reflection in it. Is the reflection in the mirror something other than the mirror itself? I can't reach into the mirror and pull it out. When I bring out the crystal ball, and you see the images in the crystal ball, it's the nature of the crystal, which is nothing but a homogeneous mass of stone, spatika ganam. Yet you look into it, you see images. I cannot cut open the stone and pull out the images. Well, are they there or are they not there? Well, they're seen, not real. All this seen, just as in the dream state is my one mind that appears as people, places, things, and conditions. Macrocosmically, it is kudasta, which appears as the entire jagat, the entire phenomenon. It's perfect, which is beyond good and evil. Take it easy. Next verse.
Tadante swattanyatve vantahante parasparam pratidvandvitaya loke prasiddhe nasti sanshayah. Besides the ideas of this and that, the self and the other, you and I, are opposite pairs. It is well known in society. There is no doubt about that.
So I'm not sure where he's going with this. This is still the reply of the teacher, right?
Yes.
Yes. So in the world of Vyavahara, transactions, yes, we have the appearance of otherness, this and that, you and me, all that sort of stuff. That's well known in society. That's what we call, what Shankara calls Vyavahara, the world of transactions. We're not denying that that is going on. When we say the dream isn't real, we are not saying we didn't experience it. Let's go on and see where he takes this now.
अन्यताया प्रतिद्वन्द्वन्ति स्वयं कूटस्थ इष्यताम् द्वन्ताया प्रतियोग्यये सोऽहमित्यात्मनि कल्पितः. The opposite of the other is the self, which is the same as the kutastha. The opposite of you, however, is I, which is the egoism, the jiva, which is superimposed on kutastha.
Oh, interesting. So, what he's saying is the opposite of all phenomenal objects is kutastha, meaning the fundamental knower of everything. But in the world of transaction, I, Jim, am over here, you, Priya, over there. We get to hold this paradox. It depends on from which level. Next verse.
अहन्तास्वत्वयोर्भेदे रूप्यते दन्तयोरिव स्पष्टेऽपि मोहमापन्ना ekatvam pratipedire. As the distinction between silver and this is clear, so also the difference between I and the self. But the people in the grip of delusion identify I with the immutable self.
But the people in the grip of delusion do what?
Identify I with the immutable self. Right? The I in quotes.
Oh, here meaning the ego. Okay. So just as the silver is nothing but the knocker of the shell appearing as the silver, it's a dhyasa superimposition. So also, the person in ignorance in the world of transactions, vyavahara, thinks the I in quotes, meaning ahankara, the ego sense, jiva bhavana, is myself. Basically, it means I think I'm my body. Yeah. That's the bija vasana. That's the root attachment. All the structures of ego ultimately have their origin in body identification. Next verse.
Tadatma yadhyasa evatra purvekta vidyaya kritah avidyayam nivrittayam tatkaryam vinivartate. That the superimposition causing the identity of I and self is caused by nescience has already been treated. When this nescience is negated, its effect is also terminated.
So, when I apprehend the rope, the snake is no longer there. Now, again, we also talk about mirage waters in the desert. When I apprehend that it's heat waves off the desert, my senses still report it looks like water. Practically speaking, in the state of ignorance, I, Jim, run around in the world. I do this, I feel that, I think thus and so. I'm concerned about what you think of me. Me meaning my personality, my history, my body. Do you think I'm pretty? Do you think I'm smooth? Bring it so. Do you think I'm kind? Do you think I'm a jerk? All of that is abhyasa. And if I do my sadhana, I thin out the mind. Again, another Yoga Vasishta term. Tanu manasa. Thinness of mind. Abhyasa vairagya cha. Practice and renunciation. In those moments when I can get some space between the thoughts, notice who you are. And just listen to the traffic for a moment. Notice what hears, who hears. It's vast, empty, kutastha, the space of pure awareness. And if you see that phony self falls, Jim falls, Priya falls, Puneet falls, meaning not that they fall down on the floor, but they're gone. They're gone. Where was me? Puny little self-absorbed person. Now it can come back very subtly. Oh, I think I got it. Oh, I think I know the self now. Oh, I think, oh yeah, I think I'm maybe even realized. Who is it who's having those thoughts? Not kutastha. It's that phony self again. That chit jaya, that shadow self. Next verse.
अविद्या वृत्तितादत्मे विद्ययैव विनश्यतः विक्षेपस्य स्वरूपं तु प्रारब्धक्षयमीक्ष्यते. The veiling of the real nature of the self and the identity superimposition are caused by nescience, and they are destroyed when nescience is negated. But so long as the fructifying karma continues, the mind and body, the effects of illusory projection of nescience continue.
So, what he's saying here In yoga, we have three karmas that we talk about: sanchita, agami, and prarabdha. Sanchita, the karmas of the past which have yet to fructify. So if you had two conflicting desires, I want to be a 6'2", no, 6'9" basketball player. They don't come 6'2" anymore. Or I want to be um, a 5'2" Russian gymnast. Woman. Can't have them both in the same lifetime. So whatever happens, the strongest one wins. But at the moment of realization, all that impression, well, that would have been better, that would have been a cooler lifetime, it's gone. Or any of the desires that we may set up in this lifetime. Let's say you've been just unlucky in love the entire life. One bad relationship after another. Oh, if only I'd come into a family with better programming from my family of origin early on, had the punya to meet the right person, I would really have liked to have had good marriage. All that's gone too. It would be any better, just different stuff. So what's left? Prarabdha karma. The karma of the now. Held this body in the manifestation. And there's all sorts of different impulses. You've got the residuals. You're going to have your allotted dose of successes and failures, joys and sorrows, health and illness. Different people, it's all prarabdha. But if you're studying this text, part of your prarabdha is also being a mumukshu, seeker after liberation. So here what Vidyaranya is saying is even after realization of the truth, ignorance is destroyed. I no longer think I'm the body. I know I'm the self. I like to say the dharma of the body is karma. Self has no karma. The dharma of the self is swayambhu, self-evidence. So because the person of realization, the mark of the jnani, is they're identified with the kuta staff. They have no prarabdha. It's just the body doing it. And I don't know if Vidyaranya is going to go there, but then Shankara says, well, the body actually is something conjured up by imagination. Can we say that there's any real cause and effect for something that's just an imagination? Oh, my mother told me a story about a prince who got on a horse with no wings and flew to a castle in the sky that was surrounded by a moat that had no water, and then he drowned in it. The prince. Can we say there was real cause and effect? So in the end, for the person of wisdom. No prarabdha. It is a teaching that is given in the scriptures for the ignorant to explain the actions of the man or woman. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
उपादाने विनष्टेऽपि क्षणं कार्यं प्रतीक्षते इत्याहुस्तार्किकास्तद्वत् अस्माकं किन्न सम्भवेत्. The logicians hold that when the material cause of an object has been destroyed, its effect continues to appear for the next moment. Similarly, why cannot the body of a knower of truth persist for some time when its cause, the nescience, has been destroyed?
So the doubt is, if the cause of the body is ignorance, when ignorance is destroyed, why does the body continue? Why doesn't it just drop dead? And again, we have this idea of prarabdha. The example that I like to do best, can you reach behind and flip the fan switch? You guys in Zoom land, if you'd been here in my apartment, you'd see this. But you look up and you see that there's energy making the fan turn. That's like a body, mind, intellect that's impelled by desire prompted activity. Realization is like, turn the switch off now. Why is the fan still turning? Maybe there's still power going into it. Well, I think that person can't be realized because they look like they have a lot of desires. It's still turning. You sure you turned it off? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, look, it's slowing down. Oh, Guruji is so pure now that he's old. No more vulgarity. Oh, he's diaphanous. She's translucent. Just the Shakti coming through. The fan is going very slow. It stopped yet? Not quite. Somebody's having a heart attack. They're rushing him to San Diego. They're trying to bring him back one more time. He's dead. And it stopped. So what happens? Next verse.
Tantūnām dinasankhyānām तैस्यादृक् क्षण ईरितः ब्रह्मस्यास्यङ्ख्यकल्पस्य योग्य क्षण इहेष्यताम्. According to the logicians, the cloth keeps its form for the next second. The threads, its material cause, that last for a few days, are destroyed. On the same reasoning, the body may persist for a proportionately long time when its cause, the ignorance of countless ages, is destroyed.
So he's using this idea that something that's created, so if it's a piece of cloth and let's say you burn it, it will maintain its shape, then finally it stops. I like my fan thing. I think that works better than cloth. But the whole idea is you and I may look at the person of wisdom. Sometimes they look very puppet-like to us. They enjoy this, they do that, but there's nothing left inside. No more agendas. Even being a guru is just prarabdha. It's a job. All it is. Prarabdha is over. None of it touches the self. None of it touches Kutastha, which remains still. Next verse.
Vina Shodha Shamam Manam Tairvrittha Parikalpyate Shruti Yuktya Nubhutim Vyo Vadatam Kinu Dashakam. Doubt. The logicians have assumed the truth of this theory without any proof. Reply. We assume it on the ground of Shruti, experience, and reasoning. Why should it be improper?
So the objector says, I'm not sure it's true. I see Guruji doing this. I see Swamiji wearing fancy silk kurtas and dhotis. I see him wearing a Rolex watch. I see him with gold cufflinks. I see him riding around in Mercedes cars. I see him enjoying chocolate. I see him liking to go fast. He used to say that. He'd be in the car, faster, faster. He used to love to go fast. Oh, he's a desire of desires. So and so must be a real realized person. They just sit there like a lump. They're not doing anything. Only one person of knowledge can recognize another. And in the end, we shouldn't have to worry about it too much. We need to be more concerned about our own yoga, not somebody else's. Remember what Shankara says in the preparatory verses to the qualifications of a fit student. Success in spiritual endeavors is entirely free of the qualifications of a fit student. Don't be too concerned about other people's behavior. All right, next verse.
Astam Dustar Kikai Sakam Vivada Prakritam Dhruve Swahamo Siddhame Katvam kutastha parinaminoh. There is no use entering into a controversy with the unreasonable logicians. The fact is that the difference between jiva and kutastha is caused by illusion.
So my suspicion, the reason he's kind of gone on this little side trip around Prarabdha before Vidyaranya was the Shankaracharya of the Sringeri Mutt. He was deeply involved in politics. I think, do you know the name of the king that he was the minister to?
Not sure. I think it's the Vijayanagara kingdom.
Yeah. But he was a minister to a powerful king and a man of realization. That's why the king had him around, because he was wise. But I suspect a lot of people say, oh, how could he be a saint? You know, there he is in the world. He's in the marketplace. He's dealing with those dirty politicians. But Vidyaranya was a man of the highest knowledge, there's no doubt. All right, next verse.
Bhramyanti panditam manyaha sarve laukika tairthikaha anadhyatya shrutim maukhya atkevalam yukti mashritaha. People who consider themselves scholars and the hair-splitting logicians overlook the authority of the Veda and wander due to their imperfect reasoning.
Yes. So, with logic, you can, in the end, pretty much justify almost anything. This is why I think lawyers can frequently get a bad name. They can argue any position. But there's a fruitful way to use logic. I'm not going to say right. I'm going to say fruitful. And that is the kind of reasoning that's set forward in the Upanishads. If you're like me, when I heard the Vedanta, it was profound common sense. It's so clear. And that's what he's saying. Don't get caught up in argument. All right, next verse.
Purva paraparam marsha vikalaस्तत्र केचनः वाक्याभासान् स्वस्वपक्षे योजयन्त्यप्लज्जया. Some others accept the authority of the Vedas, but owing to their inability to harmonize the meaning of the texts which have gone before with those that follow, they become confused. They take some isolated passages out of context and quote them in support of their own views.
Yes. So again, you can prove just about anything with scripture, and not just Hindu scripture. Evangelical Christians today who can justify all sorts of hateful nonsense by picking and choosing without seeing the larger import of the teaching. And in the Vedas, there's a karma kanda, there's a ritual portion which has as its purpose benefiting the life people who are in ignorance, teaching us more intelligent ways to live. But then there's a jnana kanda, the Upanishads, knowledge portion. And for those, as the Buddha said, who have only a little dust on their eyes. You can see what's the deepest import. Going back to the prior chapter, Prajnanam Brahma, Brahman is consciousness. I am Atma, Brahma. This self is Brahman. Tattvamasi, you are that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. That's the truth that the whole Veda points to. All right, going on.
कूटस्थादि शरीरान्त संघातस्यात्मतां जगुः लोकायता पा पाम्राश्च प्रत्यक्षा भासमाश्रिताः. The materialists, lokayatas, and vulgar persons depending on false perceptual evidence regard the aggregate beginning with the kutastha and ending in the gross body as the Atma.
So these are those who think that in fact a material world has come into actual manifestation. And many, many things come from that. I think perhaps one of the greatest illusions is this partial understanding of Tantra. So let's say I want a Cadillac. Can I create a sankalpa to manifest a Cadillac? To some degree, yes. But that teaching has not dealt with the fundamental illusion. Getting what I want, what I need. You get the Cadillac and, happy for a moment. It's just a car. And when someone rear ends you on the freeway, and even if you take good care of it and you don't get in an accident, in 5 years, it's time for a new car. Impermanent. Shankara says the scriptures declare that freedom never comes by means of artha, wealth, getting what's done. That doesn't just mean the cash and prizes of life. It can mean relationships, attention, all that stuff. All right. I think this is a good place to quit. What verse are we on for next week?
61.
61. How many are we almost done? I think it's just one of the really long chapters.
Yeah, there's quite a few more.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just a reminder, this Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, Ishavasya Upanishad begins. And it will be done hybrid, and the link is already up on the website. So I hope we see you Zoomies there. And I hope we tell your friends, because we want to also have a good active in-person class as well. And don't forget, time change on Sunday.